Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Nora, and today I'm diving into a story that turned my world upside down, broke my heart into a million pieces, and ultimately taught me how to find my own rhythm. This isn't just a love story, it's a raw, soul-stirring journey of falling in love with someone who felt like a perfect country song, uncovering a secret that silenced everything, and rebuilding myself through the pain. If you've ever poured your heart into someone who seemed like your forever, only to have it shattered by a hidden truth, or if you fought your way back to yourself after losing it all, this one's for you. It's a long, emotional ride full of twists, tears, laughter, and triumphs, so grab a coffee, a snack, maybe a cozy blanket, and settle in. Let's get into it. I was 25 when this all began. I'd been living in Nashville, Tennessee, for a few years, working as a freelance music journalist for local magazines and blogs, chasing stories about up-and-coming artists. My apartment was a cozy loft in East Nashville. Think hardwood floors, a cluttered desk with notebooks and vinyl records, and a balcony overlooking a street lined with dive bars and murals. Life was a whirlwind, interviewing bands at the Bluebird Cafe, biking through Shelby Park, scribbling articles late into the night with the sound of honky-tonk music drifting through my window. I loved Nashville's soul, its music, its grit, its creative energy, but I was lonely. Dating here was a mix of charming musicians and fleeting coffee dates, never anything deep. I wanted a connection that felt like a perfect country ballad, raw, heartfelt, unforgettable. It all started one sweaty summer evening at a music festival in Centennial Park. I was there for work, covering the event for a local magazine, weaving through crowds with my notebook, capturing the energy of the moment. That's when I met him, Wyatt. He was a singer-songwriter, performing an acoustic set on a side stage, his sandy hair falling into his eyes, wearing a worn flannel shirt that glowed under the festival lights. His voice was electric, gravelly, soulful, singing about love and loss on open roads. I jotted down notes, and he caught me after his set, grinning. Writing my Grammy speech already, he teased, his Tennessee drawl warm and inviting. I laughed, showed him my notes, mostly doodles of his guitar, and we started talking. Wyatt was a Nashville transplant, raised in a small Tennessee mountain town, grown on Johnny Cash and campfire jams. By day, he worked as a sound technician, but his passion was writing songs that told stories, dreaming of a record deal that would take him to the Grand Ole Opry. He had this magnetic charm, part small-town poet, part Music City dreamer, quoting Merle Haggard one minute, joking about Nashville's bachelorette parties the next. We talked until the festival closed, swapping stories about our favorite spots. He loved the hot chicken at Prince's. I was obsessed with sunset walks at Radnor Lake. He told me about his childhood, learning guitar from his dad, and I shared memories of growing up in a small Kentucky town, where my mom taught me to love storytelling. When he asked to see me again, I said yes, my heart already humming. Our first date was at Percy Warner Park, hiking through the trails, sharing a thermos of sweet tea as the sun set over the hills. Wyatt was different. He listened, really listened, asking about my childhood dreams of being a novelist, my love for capturing music stories through words. He played me a song he'd written, a soft ballad about a girl who carried the stars in her smile. "That's you, Nora," he said, and I melted. It was like something out of a song, and I was hooked. We sat on a hill, watching fireflies blink, and he told me about his dream to write a hit that would echo through Nashville's honky-tonks. I shared my hope to start a music blog, telling the stories behind the songs. By the time we parted ways, I was already falling. Our relationship was a country song, raw, soulful, full of heart. Within weeks, we were inseparable. We'd drive out to the Cumberland River, where I'd take notes from my articles while he strummed his guitar, working on new melodies. We'd hit up Nashville's music venues, dancing at the basement or catching open mic nights at the listening room. He'd surprise me with little gifts, a vintage guitar pick, a lyric scribbled on a napkin. We'd spend lazy Sundays at his place, a cluttered apartment in the Gulch filled with guitars, vinyls, and half-finished song sheets, cooking biscuits and gravy while he played Chris Stapleton on his record player. "You're my muse, Nora," he'd say, and I'd laugh, saying I was just a girl with a notebook and too many dreams. "Nah, you're my whole chorus," he'd reply, pulling me close, and I believed him. We built our own traditions. Every Saturday, we'd go to the Nashville farmers market, browsing local honey and picking out fresh peaches, debating the best way to make cornbread. He swore by bacon grease. I was a buttermilk purist. One time, he gave me a silver bracelet with a tiny music note charm. "So you'll always carry a song with you," he said, fastening it on my wrist with a smile that made my heart skip. We'd end the day at a dive bar on Broadway, sipping whiskey sours and watching street musicians play. We talked about the future endlessly, him signing with a label, me launching my blog and maybe a podcast about Nashville's music scene. We planned a road trip to Memphis, dreaming of visiting Graceland and writing songs under the stars. "You and me, Nora, we're gonna sing the South," he'd say, his hand in mine, and I pictured us building a life as vibrant as Nashville's neon lights. Our first summer together was pure magic. We'd bike along the Greenway, stopping to write under the willows or share a snow cone from a food truck. We'd sneak into songwriter nights at local bars, dancing under neon signs, the city's skyline glowing in the distance. He'd invite me to his recording sessions, letting me sit in and take notes, and I'd share drafts of my articles, nervous but thrilled when he'd say, "Nora, you're gonna be the next Rolling Stone." We celebrated my 26th birthday at a honky-tonk on Lower Broadway, where he dedicated a song to me, his band playing a cover of Tennessee Whiskey. The crowd cheered, and I felt like the luckiest girl in Music City. But around the 14-month mark, the melody started to falter. Why it got distant. He'd go silent for days, blaming songwriting slumps or family drama with his brother in Chattanooga. He'd cancel plans, like a weekend at a cabin in Gatlinburg, saying he had a last-minute gig or studio session. I tried to be supportive. Music's a tough grind, right? But my gut was screaming something wasn't right. He'd leave his phone on silent, get defensive when I asked about his day, his usual warmth replaced with a guarded edge. "My best friend," Sage, noticed it too. We'd been friends since I moved to Nashville, bonding over our love for spicy food and live music. Nora, something's off, she said over coffee at Frothy Monkey. Don't ignore the red flags. But I did. I wanted our country ballad to stay perfect, like a song you never stop humming. The first red flag was a text I saw by accident. We were at his apartment, binge-watching Yellowstone, the scent of his latest chili experiment filling the air, when his phone lit up. Miss you. When are you back in Memphis? From someone named Ellie. My heart sank. I asked, who's Ellie? He brushed it off, just a friend from a songwriting circle, but his voice was too quick, too tense. I let it go, telling myself I was overthinking, but the doubt planted a seed. Then came the gigs in Memphis that didn't add up. His Instagram showed him at bars, not studios. I started noticing little things. A woman's scarf in his truck, a faint whiff of perfume that wasn't mine, a receipt for a dinner for two at a Memphis restaurant when he'd said he was working late. Sage kept saying, check his phone, Nora. You deserve answers. But I didn't want to be paranoid. I clung to the hope that our love was real, that Wyatt was still my melody. The unease grew. At a music festival I was covering, Wyatt's band was performing, and I was so proud, scribbling notes on his every chord. But afterward, I saw him backstage, chatting with a woman I didn't know, petite, with a bright smile, lingering too close as she praised his set. When I asked who she was, he said, just a fan, Nora, relax, but his tone was sharp, almost annoyed. I let it go, but the seed of doubt sprouted. Then came the late-night texts he'd hide, the studio sessions that lasted until midnight. I started feeling like a backup singer in his story, not the lead, and it gnawed at me. My family back in Kentucky noticed too. My mom, during our weekly calls, said, Nora, you sound off. Is everything okay with Wyatt? I brushed it off, but her words echoed Sage's warnings. The truth exploded one stormy October night, thunder rumbling over Nashville. We were at my loft, cooking fried chicken, the air thick with the scent of grease and tension. His phone buzzed on the counter, and I saw it before he could grab it, a text from Ellie, miss you, love. When are you back in Memphis? My heart stopped, the room spinning. I confronted him, my voice shaking like the willows outside. Wyatt, who's Ellie? He froze, his face pale, then sighed, running a hand through his hair. Okay, Nora, I need to tell you the truth, he said, his voice heavy. And out it came, like a record scratching to a halt. Ellie was his fiancée, living in Memphis. They'd been engaged for 3 years, planning to move to Nashville together to pursue his music career, but he'd come alone for new opportunities, keeping her in the dark about us. He'd been traveling back and forth, juggling 2 lives, 2 loves, weaving a web of lies that I'd walked right into. I love you, Nora, he said, tears streaming down his face. I didn't know how to end it with her. But his words felt like a broken string. I was betrayed, humiliated, like our entire romance was a song he'd stolen from someone else's setlist. I screamed at him to leave, my voice raw, and threw the music note bracelet across the room, its clatter echoing as he walked out into the rain-soaked night. That night, I shattered. I cried until my throat burned, tears mixing with the storm outside my window. I deleted every text, every photo, burned the playlist he made me. Chris Stapleton's Tennessee Whiskey now felt like a mockery. Nashville's neon streets turned into a painful reminder. Every honky-tonk, every dive bar, every guitar riff screamed his name. I felt like a fool. How had I missed the signs? Was I not enough? I replayed every moment, every farmer's market morning, every river sunset, every shared song, searching for where I went wrong. There were no answers, just a raw, gaping wound in my chest. I called Sage, sobbing uncontrollably, and she rushed over, staying the night, holding me as I fell apart. "You're enough, Nora," she whispered. "You'll get through this." But in that moment, I couldn't see how. The next 8 months were a fog of pain. I went through the motions at work, writing articles, meeting deadlines, but my heart wasn't in it. My stories lacked their usual spark, and editors started noticing. I avoided Centennial Park, the music venues, even my balcony, terrified I'd hear a song that reminded me of Wyatt. Friends tried to help. Sage dragged me to open mic nights at Cafe Coco. My coworker Ezra invited me to art walks in the Gulch, but I was numb. I stopped writing for fun, let my notebooks gather dust, gained weight from stress eating hot chicken and sweet tea. One low point was finding a lyric he'd written for me, tucked in a notebook. "To Nora, my starlight." I tore it up, hating how it still hurt. The loneliness was crushing. I'd lie awake, replaying his lies, wondering if love was just a Nashville myth. The pain wasn't just emotional, it seeped into every corner of my life. I started messing up at work, submitting half-hearted drafts, missing deadlines. My editor pulled me aside, saying, "Nora, you're not yourself. Take some time if you need it." I felt like I was failing at everything. I stopped going to music festivals, scared I'd see Wyatt's band on a flyer. I even avoided my favorite coffee shop, fearing I'd see a couple that reminded me of us. My family grew worried. My older sister, Emma, drove down from Kentucky, spending a weekend exploring Nashville's murals with me, trying to pull me out of my spiral. "You're stronger than this, Nora," she said, but I didn't believe her. I started therapy with a kind woman named Dr. Ellis, spilling my hurt in quiet sessions by the river. She said, "Nora, your heart's broken, but it's still beating. Let it heal." It was a lifeline, but I was still drowning. About a year later, I hit a turning point. I was at a bookstore in 12 South, staring at a blank notebook, feeling like a shadow of myself, when I saw a flyer for a pottery workshop at a local art studio. On a whim, I signed up, desperate for anything to shake me out of my rut. The first class was a disaster, clay splattered everywhere, my bowl collapsing into a lumpy mess. But it was the first time I'd laughed in months, a real, belly-deep laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The instructor, a woman named Ruby, with warm eyes and a Nashville twang, said, "Nora, let the clay hold your story. It's not about perfection, it's about feeling." I started pouring my pain into every piece, shaping mugs, vases, and plates that carried my grief, my anger, my hope. Each session felt like stitching myself back together. In that class, I met Harper, a songwriter who'd moved to Nashville to start over after her own heartbreak. We bonded instantly, and she became my lifeline, inviting me to songwriting nights at her studio where we'd sip wine, write, and talk about everything but the past. I started saying yes to life again, bit by bit. I joined a writing group in East Nashville, a small circle of creatives who met in a cozy cafe. I shared short stories about heartbreak, resilience, and the beauty of starting over, pouring my emotions into words. The feedback was electric. People said my stories made them feel seen, like they weren't alone. One member, a poet named Lila, told me, "Nora, your words are like a jukebox in a storm." I started to believe her. I signed up for line dancing classes downtown, stumbling through steps at a honky-tonk, laughing as I tripped over my own boots but finding joy in the rhythm. I started running through Shelby Park at dawn, the river sparkling as I pushed forward, each step a reminder that I was still here. I took a solo trip to the Smoky Mountains, renting a cabin in Gatlinburg, journaling by a creek as the leaves turned gold. It was terrifying to travel alone, but it taught me I could be my own safe place, a melody for my own heart. New people entered my life, slowly filling the void. At a journalism meetup, I met Theo, a music blogger with a quick laugh and a passion for storytelling through words. We started collaborating on a blog series about Nashville's hidden music spots, dive bars, backyard jams, open mic nights. It wasn't romantic, but it was real, reigniting my love for writing. Theo introduced me to his friend Maya, a fiddler who played in local bands, and we bonded over our shared love of Nashville's music scene. I volunteered at a local animal shelter, spending weekends walking dogs and falling in love with a scruffy mutt named Cord, with soulful eyes and a lopsided grin. I adopted him, and he became my shadow, curling up beside me as I wrote or journaled late into the night. I tried kayaking on the Cumberland River, flipping over a dozen times in the chilly water but laughing through every splash, feeling alive again. My creativity roared back, like a guitar riff cutting through silence. I revived my notebook, filling it with stories and poems, and relaunched my music blog, sharing my writing alongside photos of Nashville's neon signs and dive bars. To my surprise, it grew fast. Readers emailed me, saying my vulnerability gave them hope, that my stories captured the soul of Music City. I pitched a book to a local publisher, a memoir about healing through music and storytelling, and they offered me a deal. Writing it, surrounded by a community who believed in me, felt like a dream I hadn't dared to dream. I also started a YouTube channel, posting vlogs about my journey, writing, heartbreak, healing. The response was overwhelming. Viewers from across the country shared their own tales of betrayal and resilience, creating a community that felt like a warm hug. One video, where I talked about turning pain into stories while shaping a clay vase, went viral, with comments like, "This gave me hope to keep going." I cried reading them, realizing I wasn't alone either. The healing wasn't linear. Some days, I'd hear a country song or see a sunset and feel a pang, the ghost of Wyatt lingering. Therapy with Dr. Ellis helped me navigate those moments, teaching me to honor the pain without letting it define me. I started hosting open mic nights at a local bookstore, giving other writers and musicians a space to share their stories. I took more solo trips, each one a step toward reclaiming myself. A weekend in Memphis to visit Beale Street, a drive to Chattanooga to explore its music scene. I even started going to music festivals again, not as Wyatt's girlfriend but as Nora, the journalist, capturing the joy of others without fear. My career took off in ways I hadn't expected. My blog led to freelance gigs with national music magazines, and I was invited to speak at a journalism conference in Austin. Standing on that stage, sharing my journey from heartbreak to healing, I felt like I was finally living my truth. I started hosting writing workshops in Nashville, teaching others how to tell their stories. My memoir, Chords of Courage, became a local hit, and readers reached out, saying it inspired them to face their own pain. I kept vlogging, sharing recipes, music tips, and personal stories, building a community that felt like family. 5 years later, I ran into Wyatt at a music festival in Centennial Park, the same place we'd met. He looked worn, his flannel faded, his dreams of a record deal still just dreams. He told me Ellie had left him, that his band broke up. "I lost the best thing, Nora," he said, his voice heavy with regret. I waited for the old ache, the spark that used to light me up. Nothing. "I'm good, Wyatt," I said, smiling softly. I found my own tune. I walked away, the festival lights glowing behind me, the sound of a guitar riff in the air, feeling lighter than ever. Now, I'm 30, living my truth. My memoir's gaining traction, my YouTube channel's thriving, and I'm planning a trip to Ireland to write about its folk music. I date when it feels right, but I know my worth doesn't depend on anyone else. Love's not a perfect song. It's messy, real, and possible when you're whole. Nashville's still my home, its neon streets and dive bars a reminder of how far I've come. I'm not the girl who fell for a lie anymore. I'm the woman who wrote her own melody, one word, one step, one chord at a time. Alright, guys, what's your story of love, lies, or finding your tune? Drop it in the comments, let's lift each other up. If this resonated, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for joining me on this epic ride. See you next time.